Hi everyone, my name is Kim, and welcome back to Bookmarks and Breadsticks. Welcome back to Bookmarks and Breadsticks. As you can see, I'm again in another location, my house. Honestly guys, I don't know what it is about this time of year, but it's just getting harder and harder to not want to not film. I still want to talk to you guys and tell you all about the things that I'm reading. I think it's just this time of year I'm losing the momentum or steam to want to set up a proper set behind all my books and all of that. You know, we're getting into the holidays and it's going to be my first holidays without my dad. And it's hard. It's already early November and it just gets harder every day. But I want to continue my 2-day-a-week uploading schedule. I want to be able to tell you guys what I'm reading, tell you what's going on with Read It and Eat. But maybe you might see a small dip in my energy and maybe in just the way I present myself on camera. I just flew back from Boston for a quick 36-hour trip to see a friend. So I'm just damn tired. So I'm downstairs in my basement next to my fire. I've got Project Runway behind you. You can't see it. You're sitting on my laptop, actually. But I wanted to film while I had some momentum, so I also had content for Tuesday. But let's get into what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. I wanted to talk to you about week 2 of Nonfiction November and The Secret History of Food. This is Matt Siegel's new book that came out in October of 2021. Came in just shy of 200 pages of readable content. Obviously, there's a lot of acknowledgments and notes and citations at the end of this book. I listened to this as an audiobook, and it came in just shy of 6 hours. And I actually found that this time of year, I am reading a lot and listening to a lot of audiobooks. This is from Echo, which is a impress that actually Anthony Bourdain used to oversee and be a part of. So anytime Echo Books comes out with a new food book, I'm very quick to pick it up. I actually follow the author on Instagram, which is pretty cool because he actually likes and has responded to some of my DMs. So what is The Secret History of Food all about? It is the strange but true stories of the origins of everything we eat. It spans multiple foods at a high level per chapter. So if you want, what I like about books like this, these are the kind of books I want to introduce my friends to when they're new to nonfiction or they're new to food writing specifically. Because usually there's a fun fact in here that just makes them so excited. And then if I know that food is of interest to someone, I can recommend them to another book that's maybe a micro history of food. For example, there's a whole chapter in this book about tomatoes. It's actually the last chapter of the book, and sorry, shift this for a sec. So the last chapter of this book is Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, which first off, I don't know if anyone remembers that animated TV show, but I do. And I remember the theme song, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Anyone, please comment below that I'm not alone. Otherwise, I sang for you and I am embarrassed. Anyway, what I didn't realize and I learned from this book is that ketchup actually has a standard of identity where ketchup in the United States needs to be made with 20% sugar. Otherwise, you can't call it ketchup with a K. You could call it catsup with the C, but not ketchup. Interesting. Other fact of tomatoes is something that I actually knew because I've read Barry Estabrook's book, Tomato Land. But one of the fun facts of tomatoes is that we breed tomatoes in the United States so that they stay red. And we use chemicals to help accelerate the color from green, the aging of the color from green to red. But what that is a sacrifice in taste. There's a lot of dark humor and criticism in this book it's subtle, but it's really talking about, as Americans in our mass production, overproduction of food, we've really fucked up some of the most delicious foods in the world. And I really appreciated that kind of dark humor. And I thought the narrator picked up on it really well too. But I loved walking out. I read, this is my bread and butter. This is where I live and read and breathe. And I love that I still could come away with from this book with fun factoids and factoids that someone like Dan, my husband, would find interesting. I love the chapter about ice cream. If you guys are newer to my channel, you might not know, but I work in ice cream. I am in consumer marketing. I work for Halo Top. So to talk about and learn that at one point ice cream was considered more valuable and revered than beer is pretty damn cool. And it was leading up to the Great Depression that ice cream was more revered. You had a better a better way to show your wealth was to have ice cream at the table than it was to have beer and alcohol. That all changed, obviously, with the Great Depression and the World Wars because we needed to send the milk and use milks and creams to help our soldiers. So that's where the booze comes in a little bit. But that's stuff that just fills me with joy. Like, I can't wait to go to work tomorrow, Monday, and tell my coworkers there's a whole chapter about ice cream, and here's what I learned. I am a big believer of continual learning, and I think these kinds of books are really fun to absorb. And that audiobook is 6 hours at one regular speed. I know there's a lot of people here in the Booktube universe that can get up to 1.5 or 2%. I can get up to maybe 1.2 and that's it. But if you guys get up to 2%, like 2 times the speed, you're gonna fly through a book like this. I also loved, another fun fact from this book is that apple pie is considered such an American thing. It was really from the British and England, and we tried for a long time to make apple pie like the dish of America, and it didn't work. But this book just has really fun chapters as well. Let me just give you the names. The History of Swallowing, Pie's Progress and Plymouth Rock, The Breakfast of Champions, The Children of Corn, Honey Laundering, which I've read many books. I recommend reading Buzz if you want to learn all about honey and the bee scandal and the stealing of honey, the mislabeling of honey, The Vanilla of Society, The Ghosts of Cocogen Past, The Choices of a New Generation, Forbidden Berries, or Appetite for Distraction, and Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. I mean, what I loved about Siegel's book is that he even talks about things like maple syrup, and this is where I'm like, oh, I know this factoid because I've read a whole book, like The Sugar Season, about maple syrup, but it brings me joy that someone wrote a whole book and wanted to tell you all these fun facts. And when I do know them, I feel so cool. And when I don't know them, I'm delighted that I've learned more. So this is book number 3 for Nonfiction November that I read this month. I did read another book this week, but it's fiction. It's The Mismatch, and it is from an Iranian author. I am a big advocate of own voices. Obviously, like guys, I am half Iranian. My father was from Iran. So to read a contemporary fiction with a modern day romance where our protagonist Soraya is balancing expectations and traditions versus what she truly wants was really beautiful. It was a book I actually bought at an airport and finished in a different airport, which is kind of fun. I didn't realize how much reading I get done at airports now, which is kind of nice because normally I'm scrolling on my phone all the time, and now I feel cool pulling a book out of my bag and reading at the airport. But the book was beautiful, but I actually wasn't a huge fan of the main romance. Magnus and Soraya, I don't know. It just, their chemistry didn't feel that palpable. Now, they definitely had a soulful connection, both coming from troubled and broken homes that each deal with addiction, and that was beautiful. But in terms of like pure sexual chemistry or like, I don't know, it wasn't my favorite romance. But what I loved about this book was really the relationships and the hypocrisy about how men are treated in the Middle East in their homes, and them dating around is not nearly as frowned on as when the daughters just want to date and experience life, and they can be called whores and they can face physical and verbal abuse. It was haunting. It was devastating. It made me incredibly sad. It made me miss my dad. It also reminds me, my dad and I am one of 3 daughters from a Persian Muslim man. He got no sons. There's definitely things in here that I have own memories and connections to. I can say without a doubt, my father never hit any of us. So like, I say that because there's some physical abuse within the book, and I don't want anyone to like see this review and go, ooh, did Kim come from like a household where she was hurt? No, never. But the conflict and cultural tension between coming from Iran and my dad trying to raise daughters and daughters who are smart and liberal and outgoing, like those conflicts are real, just on a very different level. And I wish my dad was around so I could talk to him about these kinds of books, because I didn't have this kind of book growing up. I would have felt so much less alone, I think. And it would have been a good conversation now as a grown woman who is married and independent and has a home. These are the conversations I wish I could still have with my dad. They'd be much more positive. They'd be very different. I know as my dad got older, he had a lot of regrets with the way he had treated us when we were growing up in high school. And I think part of that was fear of change and fear of public and society's perceptions of your daughters. And I know an average American daughter also deals with this. I mean, the stereotypes and things that we face as women are just, I think, universal. There's a sliding scale, but there's so much that we face as little girls growing up that men and little boys don't have to deal with. But regardless, the book is phenomenal. It is so aching is the word I think of. Haunting is the word I think of. It was beautiful. If I did star ratings, like, I just can't get over the romance. Like, I was like, great, I wasn't rooting for them, but I was rooting for Soraya, and I was rooting for her family to come together and not ignore the elephant in the room. There's a whole subplot of some of their family dysfunction that they have to work through. And that was what I was captivated about. I didn't really care about this specific boy in this specific relationship, like Magnus. I didn't really care about his subplot. But oh my God, the family dynamics. Fantastic book. Again, not really a nonfiction November book, but I take breaks from nonfiction too. I need to read other things as well. So those are the two books that I read for week 2 of Nonfiction November. Obviously one of them's fiction, so it doesn't really count, but we're not really keeping score. What am I reading for week 3? I think I'm going to be reading The Lady of Perpetual Hunger. I'm very excited to read that book. And then I started one of Anthony Bourdain's books as an audiobook. It's 12 hours long though, so my goal is to finish it by the end of the month versus the end of the week. It's just a long book. Let me know down in the comments below, what are you reading? Are you participating in Nonfiction November? It's not too late. The only goal of Nonfiction November is to have you read one nonfiction book more than you normally do. On your way down to the comments, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And if you haven't already, feel free to follow me on other areas of social media. Learn about the Read It and Eat subscription box. And if you're looking for ways to support my channel, I do have an Amazon wish list down there so you guys can see all the weird, dumb things I pay for as a small business owner. You don't want to buy a book from my bookshop.org affiliate? That's fine. You want to buy me a roll of Scotch tape, because I will always need tape for my business? Also fine. And if you just aren't in a position to do any of that, hitting like, hitting subscribe, and commenting below will bring me so much joy. Thanks so much for being a part of my bookish family and for tuning in and learning more about food writing. I hope you are well, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.